When I first read this poem, I didn't like it. I didn't like it because the speaker, who is turning 10, speaks with the insight and vocabulary of an older person, a poetic kind of older person. The voice doesn't fit the kid, and it didn't work for me. Over time, however, I changed my mind about this poem and came to like it. First, there is a little hint of parody in this poem. Over the centuries, writers have addressed the topic of aging with titles like On Turning 30, On Turning 50, etc. It's a common theme among writers, and they go on and on philosophically about this process. And as the parodic element of this poem gradually dawned on me, I came to like it better. Second, this poem is not just about turning 10. The subject is growing older, and the theme can perhaps best be stated like this. As we grow older, we leave more and more of our innocence behind, and the world becomes increasingly and disturbingly complicated. And that's true at just about any age. When you're 9 turning 10, when you're 19 turning 20, when you're 59 turning 60. It's a pretty universal truth. Another thing that made me change my mind about this poem was reading Billy Collins' poem, The Revenant. Billy Collins is a dog lover, and his poem, The Revenant, is told from the point of view of the dog. The dog addresses his owner. It works. It's a good poem. So I thought, if, as a reader, I can buy into a poem in which a dog is able to speak in a thoughtful way, why not be open to a poem in which a 9-year-old turning 10 does the same thing? And gradually, I came to like the poem, though one does need to buy into this sophisticated, almost 10-year-old speaker. So let's read. The whole idea of it makes me feel like I'm coming down with something. The it, of course, is turning 10. Something worse than any stomach ache or the headaches I get from reading in bad light. A kind of measles of the spirit, a mumps of the psyche, a disfiguring chicken pox of the soul. Note how poetically the stanza ends. Measles, mumps, and chicken pox are childhood diseases. They are, of course, physical diseases, but this speaker senses a disease of the soul. The you, which begins the second stanza, refers to the adults in this speaker's life. You tell me it is too early to be looking back, but that is because you have forgotten the perfect simplicity of being one and the beautiful complexity introduced by two. But I can lie on my bed and remember every digit. At 4, I was an Arabian wizard. I could make myself invisible by drinking a glass of milk in a certain way. At 7, I was a soldier. At 9, a prince. It is true that as we grow older, and as our childhood recedes into the past, it is harder and harder to remember it. Our memories become memories of memories. We lose a lot of detail. But this speaker is still young enough that he can recall vividly all these childhood stages. One is a perfect simplicity because we are the center of the universe. Everyone around us attends to our needs and desires. 2 is a beautiful complexity because by the time we're 2, we're toddling around exploring all kinds of new things, but we don't have to worry about anything because the adults in our lives still protect us and monitor our every move. Then the poet remembers various make-believe phases. In the next stanza, the sauce begins to thicken. But now I am mostly at the window watching the late afternoon light. Back then it never fell so solemnly against the side of my treehouse, and my bicycle never leaned against the garage as it does today, all the dark blue speed drained out of it. Note that he isn't playing outside. He's at the window watching. Remember that other Billy Collins poem, Monday, in which he repeats over and over again that the poets are at their windows observing? Well, this 10-year-old speaker has a very poetic spirit. It's not just that he sees the late afternoon light fall against the treehouse, but it falls solemnly. Now, of course, the light doesn't fall any differently than it ever has, but he sees it differently. That's the beginning of adulthood, and that's the beginning of poetry, when your soul or your spirit colors and interprets your experience. He doesn't just see his bicycle leaning against the garage. He sees that the dark blue speed is drained out of it. This is the beginning of sadness, I say to myself, as I walk through the universe in my sneakers. It is time to say goodbye to my imaginary friends, time to turn the first big number. There again, a little bit of parody. Adults often talk about the big 3-0 or the big 5-0. Well, to this kid, turning 10 is the first big number. No longer is he toddling around the house, or tumbling around in the yard, or riding his bike in the neighborhood. Now he is walking through the universe in his sneakers. One of the troubling things about growing up is that we come to realize how small and insignificant we are in the larger scheme of things. When we're little children, we often seem to be the center of the universe. Everything revolves around us. When we grow older, that changes. It seems only yesterday I used to believe there was nothing under my skin but light. If you cut me, I could shine. But now, when I fall upon the sidewalks of life, I skin my knees. I bleed. Another thing we learn as we grow older is how fragile we are. The phrase falling upon the sidewalks of life refers to difficulties and vulnerabilities of all kinds. Being physically injured, having our feelings hurt, being rejected by someone we love, failing a test or a class, not making the basketball team, having one of our parents get sick and die, and 1,000 other things. As we get older, our falls on the sidewalks of life become more numerous. And when those happen, metaphorically, we bleed. So after not connecting very well with this poem initially, I have come to like it a lot because I think it applies to all of us.